notre communauté BioMarine International. Welcome to our BioMarine community. Today I have a special guest. He's in Quebec. He will introduce himself. This interview is in preparation of our next BioMarine event, which is on November 17 for the next biopackaging discussion that we're gonna have, organized in partnership with Trois rivières. And so, Simon, you're going to be the moderator of a prospective session on future biomaterial. Could you tell us more about your background and why the biomaterial topic is such a growing interest in the scientific community?
Thank you. You know, I am a university researcher and professor at University of Quebec at Trois rivières. I am the co-director of the Innovation Institute on Eco-Material, Eco-Products, and Eco-Energy, just there. And I am a microbiologist, specialized in fermentation, microbiology, biomass conversion, and more generally, biorefining. I am making a lot of research and partnership with industry and also with the cities. And I am the co-author of the Industrial Research Chair on Regional Bioeconomy and Bioenergy. And you may guess that I am a strong believer of bioeconomy related to land and region development. For me, biomass has always been about money and prosperity. We can boost the economy of a region by creating jobs and business with the biomass supply chain and also value chain of the bioproducts and the biomaterial that we can make from biomass. We can make money, of course, with the products, but we can create the circular economy with the co-products, okay, not the products, but the co-products. You know, I really like strategy with co-products, and I like to create circular economy and region with that. Among all the products and co-products that we can get from biomass, there are many types of biomaterials. Most of them can replace petrochemical-based products or synthetic products and give the same properties to the products, even improving them. When your biomass supply chain is optimized, the biomaterial can have smaller carbon prints and better life cycle, and they are normally more environmental friendly. Yes, biomaterial are biodegradable, but we sometimes like them when they last longer. You know, research and development revealed that we can incorporate biomaterial into existing material or products, apply them on different surfaces or modify them to give new or improved properties. And now major manufacturers or users of material are now revisiting other processes and products to use biomaterial or bio-based input. It is big. It is a very big market of billions of dollars, you know.
Well, this is very interesting. And at first, I would like, to ask you a question, because we're talking about biomaterial, bioplastic, and the main question that people tend to forget is the importance of the raw material availability. When we look at the biomass, what are the challenges today, taking into account that the carbon footprint and the sustainability parameters are becoming of the essence? Everybody try, to improve its carbon footprint, reduce the carbon uses in the value chain. So I'll be very interesting to listen to what you think about, the raw material availability.
Well, you know, there's many challenges, but one of them is to have an optimized biomass supply chain. That's the biomass supply chain. There are some existing chain and part of the world, but they are already used. Sometimes you have to build new supply chains. And, an optimized biomass supply chain will have less transportation, improved logistics, better biomass conditioning, which means an overall less carbon prints and less energy consumption. Another challenge is to gather all the players for bioproducts or biomaterial value chain and the smallest area as possible. Local raw material, local production, local users. It could be at the scale of a city, a region, or sometimes a country, but I believe that the biomaterial producer or user shall adapt itself to the biomass available in its region. It can be fresh, desiccated, or residual biomass. You know, we are always telling that we have to think locally. It reduces the carbon footprint, it improves sustainability. You can, of course, think globally with the products, but always think locally with the co-products. So the challenge is to work in the smallest area as possible, and having also a very good biomass supply chain and such an area.
Oh, well noted. So if I understand well, societies need to plan ahead and to optimize by all means the use of land crops, agricultural wastes, forests, microalgae, and seaweed. What recommendation will you give to the industry if they plan to get into the biosource packaging?
You know, it's a bit what I've just said. It's about the biomass supply chain. Always build or join an economic and sustainable biomass supply chain that will secure your biomass. Securizing your biomass is very important. So if this economic sustainable biomass supply chain can secure your biomass, biomaterial, or bioingredient, you will be really happy. You need also a company that will prepare adequately your biomass before the conversion or the extraction processes. You know, do not underestimate the biomass preparation step. It must have, by example, the right particle size, the right humidity, etc. It must be homogeneous as much as possible. We always get better yields when you feed your conversion or extraction processes with an adequate preparation of the biomass, with an adequate prepared biomass, you know. It is not only about shredding, dewatering, drying, or desiccation. It is also about sorting, grinding, and screening. So always keep that in mind. But in these days, if you are surrounded by an integration technology expert and scale-up expert, and you share the risk with smart partners, the funding and the technological aspect of your project, of your idea to valorize biomass are very less problematic. I recommend then to involve strong integration technology expert and very important competent scale-up expert. However, I highly recommend to consider many social aspects, including the socio-political challenge on the territory. Always involve local people, local organization. There is always a host community, and from these people, keep them informed. Money will not gain their trust, but communication will. By example, in Quebec and Canada, it is always beneficial when we co-create and progress with the First Nation. And more precisely for the biopackaging sector, when you consider the people in the region, where your biomaterial and bioingredient come from, it helps you to secure the biomass or its component. It contributes to the local economy, and it can give a distinctive brand to the packaging. So that's my recommendation. Involve the people and the stakeholders of the region, and you may have a very interesting success story.
Absolutely, and I think that we will touch base on this later during the interview. Let me dive a little bit and dig more on the bioplastic. So the novel bioplastic made of innovative polymer is, as you know, a very trendy topic. Could you explain what we're talking about?
Well, based on what I know, all polymer or plastic coming from fossil resources are not innovative. So biodegradable polymer or bioresource polymer can be classified as innovative polymer. However, from my point of view, innovative polymer and packaging, because it is our main topic today, shall allow a better recyclability or compostability. And innovative polymer should not have less or no, should not have issues, with plasticizers, microplastic, or nanoplastic. So from my point of view, innovative polymer are very good and recyclability, compostability, and there's no issues with some undesirable molecule or compound like plasticizers, microplastic, or nanoplastic.
That's very timely, because I was about, you know, to talk about the end of life packaging, which is really a challenge, you know, for the industry. And so if we're talking about, you know, seaweed biopolymers, some of them are edible, water soluble. So what will be, if there's no end of life, do you think it will be a major breakthrough, or is it just a dream?
No. It will be a major breakthrough because, you know, yes, the end of life packaging is challenging, but, you know, the idea of using biopackaging, for example, because we're talking about that, it's about having something biodegradable at the end of life, but most of the time partial degradation will lead to toxic or undesirable compound. It is why we are speaking more now about compostability instead of biodegradability. It is more compatible with the environment. It is also the question of recyclability. All solutions that can improve recyclability and durability are also important. So there's sometimes decision to take. Do you want your packaging more compostable? Do you want your packaging more recyclable? It is some choice to make at that moment. But, you know, as you told, you spoke about water-soluble, edible polymer. That's our good solution. But some of us are thinking more about coating. You know, you add to improve properties, you extend the life of the packaging and its content. There's still a lot to do around the coating science, but don't forget that the pulp and paper industry and its relatives are good at that. We can really learn from them. But, you know, was something very important, and I think that now the industry are taking this orientation. We shall always apply the eco-conception principle and always anticipate the end of life of your packaging. Maybe some crew will succeed in the future to get a biopackaging with no end of life by just anticipating the end of life, by the, you know, by thinking more about that during the initial conception or the projects.
Excellent. And so BioMarine is ocean and it's water. So let's go back to seaweed. And it seems to be, for lots of people, the ideal candidate that checks all the boxes, you know, for biopackaging. And Canada can play an important role in the sector. What are the steps ahead?
You know, you're right about the seaweed. We are believing, many of us are believing that the seaweed producer, harvester owner are increasingly seeing the high economic potential of algae and the value chains for each of the biomaterial or bioproducts that we can make with them. It is what has happened, you know, with the forest biomass. The forest products industry was built in the region, sometimes very far from the pulp and paper mill, for example. Maybe we shall encourage region to build their seaweed products industry. The locals can, of course, produce or harvest the seaweed, but they can prepare also the seaweed, separate, if necessary, their precious component, and be the intermediate with the final user. So the seaweed products industry, most of it can be in the region and be in contact with the final users. In other words, we have to build, I believe, seaweed processing depots or something like this, or transform our region into some kind of bio-hubs. Keep in mind that the forest industry harvests and make the primary transformation, sometimes the secondary and tertiary transformation in the same area or region. The seaweed products industry could do the same. Also, seaweed producer and harvester could work more together. The short form may be more cooperative to supply biomaterial, bioingredient to big industry that work in packaging or using large volume of packaging. So, you know, in Quebec, there's a lot of forest cooperative, there's a lot of farmer cooperative, and normally they are very successful in supplying the biomaterial, bioproducts, so bioingredient to many other users. But before this, when we speak about the seaweed, you always need to do a proper inventory of the seaweed biomass around, okay? And make sure that the local are mastering the sustainable practice to harvest the seaweed and also to produce them. So that's what I believe that are the steps to do to really have a sustainable exploitation of the seaweed in a region.
Simon, I know that you're also an expert on energy, and even if it's not the topic today, I have this question because, well, there was recent publication on the production of H2 coming from seaweed. I'm pretty sure that you're aware of this, and I think that everything could be valorized, and some of the product becomes the byproduct. That's the beauty of the value chain in seaweed. But does it mean that some of the byproduct could become H2 or biofuel? And would it make sense also from an economical point of view?
Yes, it makes sense, and it is interesting that you asking me this question because you know, at University of Quebec of Trois rivières we have the Hydrogen Research Institute, and I am a member of that. I am the guy who is taking care of the biohydrogen production, so that's interesting. So yes, we can think about H2 production from seaweed because seaweed can be a good fermentation substrate for hydrogen producing microorganisms. You know, seaweed have to be prepared adequately with an enzymatic treatment, by example, and after you can use them as fermentation substrate. There is the possibility also for thermal conversion of seaweed to syngas that can contain hydrogen. That's also possible. But microbial or thermal conversion of seaweed for biofuel production may require high volume of seaweed. Be sure to have a big biomass supply chain for this, and always think about having valuable co-products to guarantee the profitability of the whole process.
So that's very interesting. And so it would make sense maybe to convince oil and gas industry to jump into this new growing sector and invite them, to support, the growth of the seaweed industry. And so by doing so, we could use some of their industrial big capacity to ferment it and to extract the biofuel. What do you think?
And indeed, that's a very interesting question because, we shall always see the oil and gas as a co-development partner. This industry has a lot of engineer, expert and process integration, and many infrastructure. You just told it. Maybe we can reuse this infrastructure for other purposes, and that this oil and gas company, they will always still be around for a long time. So we have to work with them, and the LG and microalgae sector, we are targeting the oil and gas producer as user of our biocrude that we can make from the hydrothermal liquefaction of the algae biomass. That's very popular. So they are part of this, of all this algae processing, So what I want to tell, let's say, we can always find them a role in the regional bioeconomy. I think that's something that we have to keep in mind. And there is always a co-product approach to be applied. You can take out a molecule of interest or an important component from the biomass, from the algae biomass for the seaweed, and you leave the rest, the residue, to the oil and gas producer to do something greener, to do more, a better biofuels. So there's always also the approach of co-products that can be interesting to involve oil and gas partner into that.
I like this. So coming back, to one of the most important challenge, growing seaweed is the mass challenge. And at BioMarine, we launched Aliga, our spin-off that has already one big partner in Western Canada. But do you think that Quebec could play a significant role in growing seaweed and organic seaweed? And what would be the best way to unleash, this potential?
Spoke about Aliga. Aliga is doing exactly what we should do, building the biomass supply chain or the value chain and having seaweed farm, I think that Quebec can be, of course, an important player and even go further in the production of organic seaweed or seaweed. We are used to exploit in Quebec and use biomass like the forest resource. We have, say, we have a culture for that. It is normal for us to exploit the biomass, and also we have many experts and related to all this seaweed production. We have the expert like Mirinov that can help to deploy more production of organic seaweed, by example. So you asked me the best way to unleash this potential. I really think that it will be the training. We need technician, professional, engineer in that field, and that's the key. It will be the key factor for the success. We do not have a lot of people that can grow seaweed, that can process seaweed, can make products from it. If we can increase the training, it's sure that we will unleash this potential. And we also need the strong will of the region. Hopefully we have that in many of our region in Quebec. So when I think the strong will, it is the strong will of the people to create, to create, in French, we tell créer de la richesse avec les ressources, to create not money, but something with the resources, you know. So the strong will of the people in region is there. So I think it will really help to get skilled labor, to train labor, and because normally it must come from the producing region, you know. So it is a very interesting potential there. Bon, you know, we have a very good maritime sector in Quebec, very active maritime sector, but we are not enough good in terms of training to produce seaweed and develop products from it. So if we really focus on that part, the training, I'm pretty sure that we will be able to harvest and produce more seaweed and supply a lot of other groups around the world.
Well, excellent. One more personal question, because I know that you're very committed to indigenous communities and you work a lot, you know, with these northern territories. So in order to develop, you know, this local blue economy, and I'm thinking about, you know, the hard job, you know, and the great involvement of Kim Buffett on the North Shore community, we also would like, you know, to bring young entrepreneurs back, you know, to the northern and lower North Shore community. So what do you think could be the potential of, you know, the northern territories when we look at the biomass and the seaweed potential?
You know, I am a strong believer of the Northern Territory. The will and resilience are there and all of its glory, you know. There are maybe few people, but they want to boost their economy with their resources. They are ready to share their resources, but it must create more jobs as possible and attract people and keep their young brains around them. And if we can bring back local brains at their place, they will really be more happy and they will secure at all costs your biomass, your biomaterial, your bio-ingredient, and even take care of the quality control. Very important, by the way, this step. And this area you know, this place, the Northern Territory, have very few anthropogenic contaminants. They are clean. So imagine no chemical pesticide, no chemical fertilizer. You have just seriously improved the life cycle of all of your biopackaging if you use our bio-ingredients, you know. So you could have a pristine biopackaging made from the will and the strong resilience of the Northern community. That's a very interesting brand also related to the marketing, related to that. So, and those people are really waiting for us. We have to help them build biomass processing factory, and we have to train them and trust them to take care of most of the part of the value chain, you know, and the industry shall send their employee there also. So the users of this product can also be involved in all of this value chain and the northern territory, because, you know, the local people will probably welcome them very well. They will give them a land, help them to build a house for their family, help them to build a cabin on an island. You know, every morning the industry employee will have fresh water from an iceberg and endless seafood. For a big company, this is what we call human resource sustainability. So there's a lot of assets in Northern Territory to really get the full potential of, for example, the seaweed industry, the seaweed projects industry.
I see you're boiling with enthusiasm for the Northern Territory, and I couldn't agree more. You know, there is a huge potential. So from the Northern Territories and the beauty of Canada, there's only one step to the far side of the moon. And you know that in less than 1 decade, we're going to be on the far side of the moon. So when we go up, the most important part is not to bring everything with us. And we need, you know, to grow everything on site. So can you tell, for our BioMarine audience, they also love, you know, the real science fiction. Can you tell us why seaweed and microalgae will be the new two best candidates for this new race?
Okay, yes, you know, first of all, there will be in the future about maybe 9 billion of people to feed. You know, the agriculture farm will not be able to meet this demand and food. These 9 billion will like also to consume and maintain the best quality of life as possible. And we will have significant lack of land and for fossil resources. However, we will still be surrounded by so much water, and the seaweed and microalgae can grow on that. So, and by the way, the seaweed and the microalgae seems to adapt very well to the climate change. So it is why we are many to believe that our future is depending on seaweed farm and microalgae farm on Earth and maybe in space.
Okay. Simon, a last question, because I was this morning with a young Australian student working on decommissioned oil rigs. You know, this oil industry, they have some very old rigs, and he wants to grow seaweed and process seaweed around the oil rig. Do you think this could be something of interest, especially in the east part of Canada, where there are some decommissioned, you know, platform? Do you think it's compatible with the offshore seaweed cultivation?
Yes, it can be compatible, but you cannot make any type of products from the biomass after. Okay, you know, all these seaweed, algae, I've always been seen since many decades as way to remediate, to treat wastewater or something like this. So that's normal to that's normal to use them for bioremediation. And when we get this algae biomass, it will always have algae biomass that will grow. It's sure that we should harvest them and try to make products from it. And by example, I give you the example of using the hydrothermal liquefaction process to make biocrude. That's something interesting that we can do from that type of biomass. So yes, that's a very interesting idea. The student should do that, and he should think really about what to do with the algae, the seaweed, or whatever what he will use. You have to think about what you will do with this biomass. And if you can think locally, you can find a lot of partners that will like his approach, and he will help to fund this project.
Thank you so much for your passion, your enthusiasm, and your vision on these future potential developments. I look forward, you know, to being with you during this November 17 edition of the Biopackaging. For our audience, keep in mind that Quebec is, and Trois rivières is the center of excellence in Canada that brings together, you know, the wood past, the microalgae, the waste agriculture the waste stream, you know, from the agriculture and seaweed. So I invite you to join us. Simon will be there. We're going to have, you know, very interesting speakers and participants. As usual, we're going to have you on the one-to-one meetings. So I invite you now to join us. We're going to open the registration soon, and stay tuned because there will be interesting discussion during these days. Thank you so much, Simon, for this time with us. And I'm gonna feed you with more information on the potential of seaweed in preparation of the event on the 17th. Thank you. Have a nice day
Thank you,
in the beautiful place of Quebec. Bye-bye. Thank you.